Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Father Giuseppe Cardamone. He's a missionary servant of the poor. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guest is Father Giuseppe Cardamone. He is a missionary servant of the poor. They do work in Peru, high in the Andes Mountains. Sometimes villages like 14,000 feet high, they go and bring the gospel. So he's got a great story for us tonight. Father Giuseppe, welcome to Life on the Rock.
Hello.
You are a priest for the Missionary Servants of the Poor, and your work is largely in Peru. Tell us about your work in Peru.
Well, we are a small movement in the Catholic Church founded in 1986 by an Italian priest and doctor whose name is Father Giovanni Salerno. He went there in 1968 as an Augustinian father, together with 6 fellow priests after the Second Vatican Council, because the Archbishop of Cusco, which is the place where we are, down in the southeast of Peru, was in the council working as a bishop there, the youngest one, and asked for missionaries, and the Augustinians responded, sending 7 priests over there in a very poor area of Peru that's called Apurimac. It was, I think, it was a few years ago the fifth poorest area in the world. It's very high. It's would be maybe 14,000 feet above sea level or more. And he was sent there with 6 more priests in order to establish the church, because I mean the Archdiocese of Cusco was so big, and this now has become a prelature in the church, has its own bishop. So they've been working there for now 50 years. So Father Giovanni, the founder, worked there as an Augustinian father, and also as a doctor. He was able to face the simplest diseases of the region, of the people of there, founding different dispensaries in the area. And he stayed there working very happily for many years, maybe about 20 years. And then he decided, accepting the call of God that was working in his heart for a long time, to try to open the work that he was doing to people of goodwill, especially the young people. So in 1986 is the year in which he accepted his vocation, let's say, but he tells us that he's been, sort of fighting, the Lord for many years, because he was a little afraid about accepting that vocation. So in 1986 he started making the process to first of all he started talking with his superiors in order to get permission for founding. They granted him a sort of temporary permission, and then the work started. It developed, and after about 15 years we got permission from the Archdiocese of Cusco to become officially a movement recognized in the Archdiocese, and so
Right.
part of the church.
Now, Cusco is like 12,000 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
And you even do work higher than that, like 1450. You have villages.
Yeah.
And why did the people live that high? It seemed like can they find water and things at that?
Well, it's a good question. I couldn't ask this question totally, because we don't know. Maybe people lived there always.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the same capital. This is the region where the Inca Empire was established.
Mm-hmm.
So, Cusco itself is very high. It's 12,000 feet above sea level.
And you told me it's near Machu Picchu.
It's near Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours train from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, in the villages, people lived in the village normally. Actually, you can find Inca ruins up in the villages, spread in the highest mountains over there.
Yeah.
So I think it was the normal life of the people over there.
Yeah. So when you go, like Cusco is 500,000 people. When you go even higher to those villages, what do you find there? What's happening?
Well, Up in those villages, there is great poverty from any point of view. You know, first of all, great material poverty, because people still live like maybe in this, you know, they live in huts that are themselves they made, you know, made with bricks, made with mud and straw. They live without any water over there, any electricity. The food is very scarce because they can cultivate only potato and corn. Some of them, maybe the wealthiest one, has some, you know, some sheep or maybe llamas and so on. But most of them are very poor, and yeah, they eat once a day, and they don't have any hospital where to go, because obviously in order to get to the city, it takes a long time, you know, because there aren't proper roads over there up in the mountains. So they live a very primitive way, in a very primitive way, a very simple life as peasants, but obviously the food is scarce, their intellectual formation is very scarce as well. And spiritually speaking, they're also very poor because, you know, up there is no priest. People cannot get any religious formation over there.
But they have a Catholic background? They've had some exposure to Catholicism?
Yeah. We always find in the villages up in the mountains of Cusco a Catholic chapel. It is very beautiful, and sometimes it's very well kept. Even the government is very interested to keep well those chapels, because often they are works of art. And they tell you that you know, the evangelization made by the Spanish missionaries since the colonization have been very, very good up there. So you can find really huge chapels in the mountains, very finely decorated with beautiful paintings, using also fine metals, silver, sometimes gold. Also beautiful chapels, beautiful liturgy, you know, tools.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll hear more about the church there. So back in a minute. So we had the Spanish evangelization and resulted in these beautiful churches and chapels. Then was decolonized, but in the early 1900s, not as many priests were there. And you all come in. What do you tell them? What kind of things do you preach to them? Is there a great Marian devotion? What recultivates the faith in them? Well,
it is beautiful to see that very deep in the hearts there is still, first of all, the desire, deep desire of God, great religiosity of these people. I think it belongs to their own idiosyncrasy to be a great religious people. But at the same time, you can find also rest of the Catholic evangelization made by the missionaries, especially, you know, obviously the chapels are a great sign of devotion. There are beautiful hymns, liturgical hymns, and there is always in the villages, there is always a catechist in charge of, you know, still in charge of the Catholic community over there. But obviously, the absence of the priest made that, you know, people lose the faith, became far away from the church. And obviously, they are joining, you know, the different Protestant denomination working up there because they are thirsty for God, thirsty for the Word of God, thirsty for knowing about God. So whoever talks to them about God, they are, you know, listening to Him. But wherever we are present, especially thanks to the sisters that we have, they have small permanent missions up in the mountains. There is a process of sort of coming back to the Catholic Church, very slow, but really still there, thanks to especially to the Eucharistic adoration, to the simple evangelization, silent evangelization, thanks to the, you know, to the service that we bring to them. The sisters do a great work also because most of them are Peruvians, and they also speak their own language, because up in the mountains Even in Cusco, the first language you could see that it is Quechua. Quechua is the local language. And they speak also Spanish, but not in the mountains. In the mountains, I would say 50% speak Quechua, 50% Spanish. And you can see that the Peruvians up there, they think in Quechua and then sort of translate in Spanish, because Spanish is spoken slightly different as in Spain.
But I've heard that they were able to hold on to a certain Marian devotion, though, right?
Well, Marian devotion is present as well, yes. So I think in general, the Catholic faith is still underground, But they need to be taught. They need to be taught and helped. Obviously, without the sacrament, they cannot develop as a Catholic community. It's too difficult, It is normal that they would go astray, either sometimes embracing, some sects and so working up there, or even living badly from the moral point of view, because most adults up in the mountains, unfortunately, are drunk almost the whole day. They drink a lot because they must face a whole day's work without any food. They often chew the coca leaves, and this brings some bad consequences on the families and on the children.
Yeah.
So their poverty is human, is spiritual, is moral, is intellectual. So we try to be with them first, be a presence of Jesus in the middle of them, bring Jesus to them, but we need time in order to bring bonds of friendship, obviously, and to rebuild their confidence in the Catholic Church, because for so many years the mission have been absent from those places, and the diocesan priests have not enough human resources and also other sorts of resources to get to the village and evangelize.
Let me ask you too. We just have a few minutes left. You all have missionary couples, so married couples that will serve the mission of the missionary servants of the poor. What is their life like? Where do they work?
Well, it's important to say that the charism of the movement is to build up the church among the poor, because we are convinced that only the church can give back to the poor their dignity, because it's not a matter of giving to them or to foster the human dignity, like giving them food, education, clothing, and so on, but the most important thing is to build up in the heart the faith. We know that only stepping into the Catholic Church they can meet the Lord, and through the relationship with the Lord they can become new people. So this work is made as we want to be the church. We welcome all the vocations of the church, and also there are, as you say, missionary couples working there. They devote to the evangelization all the time that a normal family would use here or wherever they live in their job. So maybe 7 to 8 hours a day. So they help out in the schools that we have over there. They help out in visiting the families, the poor families, also in the administration, in the formation of the employees, because we have many local employees over there. So they do a great work, I would say. They are great examples because they left their countries, their jobs, their families. They moved the whole family over there.
They would live in Cusco?
In Cusco, in the town of Cusco. Yeah. We have a small place that we built for them. This is called Nazareth Village. They have houses for each family, so they live also a community life, but with balance. Obviously, their first vocation is to be a domestic church, and then to help out in the evangelization of the poor.
Okay. Well, Father Giuseppe, thank you so much. It's an amazing work your community does.